bringing something very unusual to the tournament. We will get into that in a little bit, and we'll have him go up against Paulo. So this should be an interesting matchup. Peter, of course, most known for being the Night March King. He loves his Joltik, but Joltik is no longer in the standard format, and he's going to be bringing something off the wall for sure.
I will say I did first learn about him when Night March was very popular and for his specific love of Joltik.
Yep.
But we'll see how he's chosen to respond to a Night Marchless meta. Maybe he's just gone into the Lost March direction. Although I would think that to be
that is not it.
Not likely.
Yeah. All right, so here we go. Looks like we got Pikachu and Zekrom for Paulo. And oh boy, we got quite a treat from Peter's side. He is going to start off with 2 Keldeo GX, who has got an interesting ability. It cannot be damaged by Pokemon GX. And I got to tell you, one of the weaknesses I've seen with this Pikachu and Zekrom deck is it does not run very many non-GX Pokemon. With the loss of Nest Ball and Ultra Ball, we just do not see very many Zapdos in these decks anymore. So now this Pure Heart ability is incredibly disruptive against Pikachu and Zekrom. And you can see he's already got 2 on the board.
Similar to the Behemoth strategy that we were seeing earlier on today from Hampus Eriksson, but he was choosing to use Alolan Ninetales. Here we've got the Keldeo GX, and then we see the Eevee GXs on the bench. Is this a Vaporeon deck?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's going to be running Vaporeon GX. Its ability is, once per turn, you can heal 30 damage from one of your water Pokemon. So even if your opponent is using non-GXs, if they aren't getting one-hit knockouts, you're just going to wash away a bunch of that damage and let Keldeo keep attacking. But this is a pretty weak turn 2 from Peter. He just plays Luzamine, gets back his Tate and Liza, so not the best start, but he doesn't really need a fast start, and oh boy, his opponent does not have anything either. There you go, Vaporeon GX, as you said, Cora, coming into play.
Paulo, with no real significant setup early on, is
yeah, he's got nothing.
He's suffering, yeah.
Yeah.
No Pikachu and Zekrom.
Now, Paulo does understand he's going up against Keldeo GX, and he starts powering up his Tapu Koko Prism Star. Typically, you use Tapu Koko for the Dance of the Ancients ability. Charge up your Pokemon faster, get some energy acceleration, but in this matchup, you don't have many non-GXs to work with, so you actually need to power up Tapu Koko Prism Star. Its attack is very simple, 3 energy for 120 damage, I think. And, well, that's all you got. You got to hope it can go the distance. And right now, at least he got a second energy. That is his draw for the turn. Peter has to know that. But these players are just passing back and forth. This is riveting action.
Truly lightning speed we're seeing here from both of these players as they draw pass time and again.
I've seen too many of those in my life. All right, so Peter does draw a Pokegear. Going to look at the top 7 and hope to find a supporter card. And it looks like he has found Koga's Trap. Another unusual supporter card we don't see very often. You play it, your opponent's active Pokemon is now poisoned and confused. So I'm pretty sure Peter's strategy for this tournament was dump his binder out on the floor, find any card that has not been used very often, and
it was a 60-card pickup.
Make a deck, and he's now 4-1 with it. So, well done, Peter.
Yeah, this is really interesting. The ability to lock Pokemon into the active with status, obviously with confusion and poison here. I guess with there not being, easy ways to move Pokemon out of the active and to remove status, that is a valid strategy.
Yeah.
But this is a very unique deck.
It can help you hit some numbers, too.
Yeah.
Reach for knockouts that you might not have had with the poison between turns. And, yeah, this is a very slow-moving deck. You see Steven's Resolve played right there. Get to search your deck for any 3 cards, put them in your hand, but then your turn is over. And for most decks, that is just not a price you're willing to pay. But in a very defensive deck like this one, you can afford to take the turn off and sit back and relax.
what is Peter looking to use as his primary attacker in this matchup?
In this matchup, it's Keldeo GX for sure.
Okay.
Paulo just doesn't have many non-GX attackers. So he's got that one Tapu Koko Prism Star. He's probably got a Zapdos or something like that. And that's it. Once Peter knocks those out, his Keldeo GX is just invincible for the rest of the game. So if he can fight through those probably 2 attackers, that's going to be it. Paulo's really got nothing, and he's going to have to find things like custom catchers to go around Keldeo GX. These styles of decks are a lot more powerful now because you don't have 3 or 4 Guzma in your deck. You just go around them. You're forced to attack the active Pokemon a lot more than you have in the past, so these strategies become a lot better.
If you're not committing to 4 copies of custom catcher in your deck, then it is very, very difficult to actually move a Pokemon out of your opponent's active position. We can see Paulo just continuing to try and get something going here with that Tapu Koko Prism, but there's a lot of power on the side of Peter, and it's going to be tough for that one Prism Star Pokemon to be able to take 6 prizes.
Yeah, especially with all the healing.
Yeah, I'm not terribly confident.
Yeah. That said, it's not out of the question for Paulo to win. He's going to need to find a bunch of Electro Powers, basically. If he can go double Electro Power and knock out Keldeo GX in one attack, then those healing effects don't really ever come into play. You just knock him out, say, okay, sweet ability, Vaporeon. There's no damage for you to heal, and go from there. Another card that looks like Paulo is running is that Hoopa from Unified Minds. Has the attack that does 10 plus 20 for each Pokemon your opponent has with an ability. And right now, I think there are 6 Pokemon with abilities. So that might be another attacker in this matchup that Peter's not expecting.
So Paulo may be wanting to keep that secret in his back pocket until he finds the right time to be able to play it.
Oh, what in the world? Is that a Switch Raft? All right. So it's a switch, and then if you have to switch a water Pokemon, and then if you do, you heal 30 damage from it. This is not a card we have ever seen played in any deck. It was from the Dragon Majesty expansion, the mini set.
Yeah.
And here it is at the World
Probably
Championships.
intended to be used alongside Kingdra GX was released in Dragon's Majesty as
maybe.
well, but
Oh.
finding some use with Keldeo and Vaporeon.
All right, so this is a big play from Paulo. Maybe he's been stockpiling some resources. Plays the reset stamp to force Peter to shuffle in all the cards he's been stockpiling with those Stevens Resolves and Luzamine, and plays double Electro Power, so he can now attack with Tapu Koko Prism Star and get the knockout.
So Paulo is going for a swing here this turn to be able to take the first knockout of the game, take a couple of prizes, and hopefully find the continued resources that he needs to be able to get past that second Keldeo.
All right, so it's still going to be an uphill battle for Paulo, I think, but he is doing what he needs to do to at least have a chance in this game. He is going to wipe out all the energy on Peter's side, and this is a pretty slow-moving deck. You have lost things like Aqua Patch in the rotation that would allow you to power up Keldeo GX faster. Also, Double Colorless Energy was good with Keldeo GX, but that is no longer in the standard format. So you kind of need to attach 3 times to Keldeo GX, and that's just super slow. You can run something like a counter gain to make it so your attacks cost 1 less. But for the most part, this is going to be a very slow-moving deck that needs a lot of turns to power up its Pokemon, but it can probably afford to take those turns off because, well, it's got a lot of healing. It's very defensive.
If your opponent can't actually deal damage to your Pokemon, then you have a lot more wiggle room. But Paulo is going to be bringing up...
So this is an interesting scenario. So Paulo played 2 Electro Powers this turn. He could have used Head Bolt for the knockout and instead decided to energy switch onto his Hoopa and use that Evil Admonition. I'm really curious to know why he would give up the knockout and attack with Hoopa instead. But maybe he's got a long-term plan.
And 20 more damage for each opponent's Pokemon that has an ability, which at this point in time is all of them.
Yep.
But still, you would think that that's going to be good. I mean, it gets worse if you knock out the active Keldeo, but it's still going to be good later down the line because Peter is just playing a deck full of Pokemon that have abilities. So we'll have to see if this plays out well for Paulo as to, why he didn't actually take that knockout when he had it.
Yeah, we do see Peter on his turn playing another Pokegear 3.0, grabbing this Tate and Liza. We have a lot of supporter cards that are typically deemed a little too slow to work. With Steven's Resolve, Luzamine is pretty much only seen in like stall decks. Tate and Liza shows up a little bit in decks, but for the most part, it's just like a one-card tech where you play it as a switch sometimes, as we're seeing here. But when your deck can afford to take turns off, maybe that's good enough. And we're going to see the Vaporeon GX come out. He can use both the abilities here, and he can also just use the GX attack to wash away all of the damage on his Pokemon. So there you go.
And he's going to do that with Cure Shower GX.
All right, so you thought you damaged the Keldeo, but sorry. It's back to full HP.
Paulo going to start his turn with the Electromagnetic Radar. Search up a couple of GX Pokemon from the deck. Although, again, with that Keldeo, not going to be nearly as useful as they usually are.
Yeah, and there's an awkward tension here. It's gone now that Peter has used his GX attack, but Keldeo GX's GX attack it's similar to the old Lycanroc GX attack, where it's 50 times the number of your opponent's benched Pokemon. And so Paulo was deliberately not benching Pokemon so that the GX attack couldn't knock out his Hoopa and his Tapu Koko in one hit. And now with that GX attack gone, he's free to bench as many Pokemon as he wants. So now he knows he can Electromagnetic Radar, grab to Dene, play it down without really worrying.
He's actually going to Pokemon Communication the Dene back into the deck.
Probably grab that Zapdos. These cards like Zapdos are now more difficult to find because there's no Nest Ball and Ultra Ball, things that are very versatile. You can grab all sorts of Pokemon. Now you have to bank on that Pokemon Communication, which forces you to trade a Pokemon from your hand, and then you can search out one in your deck. And these tag team decks just don't run a lot of Pokemon, so communication can be hard to use sometimes. You can have it stuck in your hand, and you don't have a Pokemon to trade in, so it's difficult to actually use effectively in these decks, but you still see a couple copies of it, so you can search out things like Tapu Koko and the Zapdos.
Yeah, it's necessary because there are just so few options now, though it's certainly less than ideal. But back over to Peter.
This is going to be a bit of a chess match here, back and forth. It's not going to be the super hard-hitting back and forth, like turn 2 wins, knockouts back and forth, 300 damage all over the place. This is going to be a methodical game where people are going to, the players are going to have to plan out how they're going to win this game several turns ahead. Both players have done this pretty effectively so far. Paulo understanding, I got to power up Tapu Koko Prism Star, got to use this Hoopa effectively, and then Peter taking his time. But let's see where it goes from here. Now the Vaporeon GX, of course, does not have Keldeo GX's Pure Heart ability, so it can be attacked by Pokemon GX. And you might see Paulo line up an attack here where he's like, all right, I can actually send in Zeraora GX and Plasma Fist for the knockout and at least pick up some prizes. But no, he's going to stick to his plan, keep using Hoopa for Evil Admonition and hit for another 130 damage. 60 of that's going to get healed away by the hydrating drops of Vaporeon GX. But just saying, all right, I'm just going to keep doing this. If you're not going to do anything, eventually I'm going to knock you out, right?
And it's important to know that Vaporeon GX and Keldeo GX are weak to grass, not to lightning. So Plasma Fists wouldn't be enough to take a knockout by itself, but with all of the softening up that Hoopa has been doing, it would be enough at that point. But it looks like Peter is going to be doing a little bit more healing than just the natural hydrating drops this turn.
Yes. It's also got a great potion. It's not a potion. It's not a super potion. It's not a hyper potion. It's not a max potion, but it's a great potion.
We're going to run out of adjectives eventually.
Never.
Next comes good potion.
Just wait for your extreme potion.
Best potion.
All right, so another energy goes to Vaporeon GX. I think that's a grass energy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Vaporeon does attack for colorless other than its GX attack.
It just makes me wonder what other tech cards he's got hiding in his deck.
He's playing the unit energies, which are grass and water.
Yep.
4-1 on the day. Clearly, this is working for Peter.
Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of decks just are not prepared for this kind of thing. They're like, what in the world is going on? There's Eevee GX, there's Keldeo GX, there's all sorts of weird stuff happening. The grass energy is, of course, for Gardenia, supported that lets you heal 80 damage from one of your Pokemon that has a grass energy attached to it. So there are actually no Pokemon in his deck that need grass energy to attack. He's simply playing them so he can heal with Gardenia.
Yeah, the unit energy double dips.
Yep.
Gardenia is going to be an additional source of life gain with the great potion.
Yes. And yeah,
the hydrating drops.
This is a very clear attempt to be a step ahead of the metagame. This not only has the Keldeo GX and the Vaporeon strategy, there's also a 3/3 line of Bronzong that has the heat-proof ability, which means it can't be damaged by fire Pokemon. So that is your option against Reshiram and Charizard. Now you might look at this and be like, why in the world would this pure water deck need to tech for Reshiram and Charizard? Don't you just win hitting for weakness and your Keldeo not being able to be damaged by Reshiram and Charizard? Like, isn't that enough? But strangely enough, the answer is no. When you have Power Plant in the Reshiram and Charizard deck, you can shut off the pure heart of Keldeo GX and just Flare Strike it for 230. And if that isn't enough, you can actually Double Blaze GX when you have the 6 fire on it to hit for 300, and it ignores all effects of attacks. So you still get a clean knockout on Keldeo GX. And Keldeo doesn't do enough damage to knock out Reshiram and Charizard in one hit, even with weakness. So even though you're playing a deck with almost exclusively water Pokemon, you still need to tech to beat the fire deck.
Well, it's a very powerful fire deck and a water deck that certainly is much more methodical in its pace of play. But it's working fairly well so far in this series, and it's worked very well for Peter today. We haven't really seen a water deck be very prominent in a while. Lapras sort of made a go of it here and there.
Yeah, the old Quagsire Naganadel was okay for a bit. Okay, so I have to admit, I just realized all those turns ago when Paulo played the double Electro Power, had the Tapu Koko Prism Star powered up. It's like, why in the world wouldn't he use Headbolt? That's because he can't. Wobbuffet, known for the Shady Tail ability, normally just used to prevent the Prism Star cards from using their abilities, but if you actually read the card, if you actually read the card, it also says Prism Star Pokemon can't attack. So my apologies to Paulo. That was the long-term game plan of why he didn't attack, because he couldn't.
Good catch. Usually you see that one just as a lock for things like Dance of the Ancients, but it specifically says they cannot attack as well.
Yep.
So he had to attack with Hoopa in that instance.
The more you know.
Da, 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 da.
All right, this is still anyone's game. Believe it or not, nobody has taken a prize card yet, but that is about to change, Cora. We've just seen the double custom catcher, and Keldeo GX will fall to the evil admonition of Hoopa GX. And Paulo has taken the first knockout and gotten rid of all of the energy on his opponent's side. So now he's down to 4 prize cards. Still got that Hoopa up and running.
I feel like we're painting a very black and white picture here. We've got the pure heart on the left. We've got the evil admonition for Paulo. Somebody's making themselves out to be a villain.
Yep. And Tapu Koko Prism Star still cannot attack. Just get that one out there.
Just to confirm what we totally knew the whole time.
Yeah. And we see the Stevens Resolve. Gonna search for 3 cards and pass the turn. It's tough. I'm not exactly sure how Paulo is gonna get all these knockouts after burning those 2 custom catchers. You know, your game plan against this was probably something like when the Vaporeon is out, you knock it out with the GX, and then you have 4 custom catchers in your deck. And at some point, try to just knock out the Vaporeon on the bench using those custom catchers. But now that he's already burned 2 of his 4, it's going to be hard for him to come by prize cards, I think. Especially with his limited number of attackers that can actually do damage to Keldeo GX and all of the healing that Peter has on his side. Like, he can attack for 130 here. 60 gets healed off immediately with those 2 Vaporeon GX. I mean, imagine a 3rd one comes down, even a 4th one comes down. He's got 2 Pokemon that can evolve into Vaporeon GX. 120 damage gets healed. He's got great potions in his deck. I don't know how Paulo's ever knocking out a Keldeo.
Plus, the damage that Peter's been doing this game is now starting to ramp up. It's going to be a lot more permanent than the damage that Paulo is doing to Peter's side of the board. This whole Keldeo deck is somewhat reminiscent of Venusaur and Celebi GX with a Shaman support line to be able to heal up the life off of the Venusaur and Celebi and just use that as the big tanky presence in the front line. The difference here being Keldeo is that tanky presence because it simply can't be damaged, whereas with Venusaur and Celebi it just had so many hit points that it was very difficult to knock out.
Yeah, I think perhaps the single biggest shift after the standard format rotation was the increase of how many healing cards have been added to decks. Before, really wasn't a lot of healing. The Reshiram and Charizard decks were starting to run things like that Miltank, where they could heal damage that way. And we saw Max Potion in some decks, but...
Occasionally Acerola, but not too often.
Yeah, Acerola was the big one, but we're seeing straight healing cards. Like, look at that. All 130 damage just got wiped off the board. And looks like he's even playing the Koga's Trap. He's done it.
Poisoned and confused.
Yeah. Oh, I'm actually wondering, does Peter have energy left? He runs very few energy cards in his deck. 3 of them got knocked out on that one Keldeo. He retreated 2 of them with Vaporeon. There's 1 on the active Keldeo. He actually doesn't play a lot of energy. He might be out.
His units, I believe, are all accounted for.
Yep. Boy. This is going to be a slow way to win if he's out of energy. He's going to have to, like, lose Amine for Koga's Trap.
Yeah, he's out of energy.
Like 80 times.
Yeah.
To actually get a knockout because his opponent can just retreat for free every turn. You're only getting 1 damage counter between turns.
Yeah, 4 unit energy. 1 grass basic, 1 water basic.
Yeah.
And I believe that means they are all accounted for.
Well, yeah, here the Luzamine plan begins. You can Luzamine for Koga's Trap and another Luzamine. So every other turn you can play a Koga's Trap.
I mean, it will lock Paulo out of getting much done, but...
Well, yeah, Paulo just can't do much, right? The Keldeo is pretty much walling him at this point.
The Wobbuffet's Shady Tail ability, keeping Tapu Koko Prism from attacking.
Yep. So,
but,
yeah.
Are we trying to beat each other, or are we trying to beat the clock now? Because with 26 minutes left, Peter taking a prize literally 10 damage at a time, it's going to be Don't know if we've got the time to take some surprises here.
Yeah, and I wonder if somebody's just going to deck out before that even happens. Yeah, and Peter's just going to play another Lose-A-Me in this turn. Get back to supporter cards. And, yeah, this is happening.
Yeah, we're here. It does look like the deck for Paulo is... We're getting there.
Yeah. Eventually. Of course.
You know, I will say I didn't see it quite ending up here so quickly. I do wonder if Peter was a little bit too lax with his use of energy, especially with no resources to recycle it.
Perhaps, but at the same time, like, how is he losing this game?
I mean, a win is a win. Well, yeah, if your opponent loses, you win. So it's a win. Doesn't matter how you got there.
Yeah. So the one way I could see Paulo winning this game, it would require him to have like every resource in his deck. But if he can power up Pikachu and Zekrom GX, eventually get 6 energy onto it, double custom catcher onto one of the Vaporeon GX without damage, Electro Power, and Tag Bolt to knock out 2 Vaporeon GX at once.
Okay.
That gets you 4 prizes. Now, he has just played an energy switch and discarded a Pikachu and Zekrom. Oh, sorry. You also need a stadium to kick out the Sky Pillar. That's the final piece of that puzzle. Which he does have. He's got Lysander Labs in his hand. But yeah, it seems like he is not going for that play.
The question is that strategy... Well, I guess we don't know how many cards are in each of their decks, so it's difficult for us to say who will deck out first at this point. If Paulo is the one who has more cards left in deck, then he will certainly take this through to fruition. If he has less cards than Peter, is it worth it to go to a game number 2 and see if you can possibly win that with the time remaining?
Yeah, I mean, with the play Paulo just made, he's not going to win on deck out.
No.
He just discarded a bunch of cards, played a Cynthia. One of the main ways to not deck out in this situation is build up a bunch of cards in your hand and then play Cynthia, shuffle them all back in. Yeah, this is going to be rough. I hate to call a game early, but I'm really struggling to see a way for Paulo to win outside of that Tag Bolt play, and he just doesn't seem to want to go for it.
No.
Now, it might be the case that he just can't do it anymore. Maybe he's burned through too many resources. There's too much energy in play. But that did seem like...
doesn't have the energy for it. It would need 6 to commit.
Right, yeah, and he's burned a couple energy switches already.
Yeah.
But yeah, if it's not going to be the Tag Bolt, how are you getting 4 prizes? And you got to assume that you're not going to deck out the stall deck. They're going to have ways to shuffle cards back in their deck. Whether that's through Tate and Liza to just shuffle in and draw 5, which when your hand is like 30 cards, that's shuffle 25 cards into your deck.
I mean, Custom Catcher can get you 2 prizes.
Right. Yeah, well, there are like 3 Lightning Energy in his deck. There's a Tag Switch.
He's got 1 in hand, I believe.
Both Custom Catchers are in there.
Okay. Can he piece this together?
Yeah.
And it looks like he's going for it because he is aggressively drawing.
I wonder if part of the problem is, like if Peter sees him going for this, does he at some point find a way to get Vaporeon active and then heal damage from it? That would prevent the double Tag Bolt knockout. If there's a turn where he goes Tate and Liza into my Vaporeon, heal 60 from it. Although then it's active, it can get knocked out and then you still lose to the double Custom Catcher. So,
and there's just no way to retreat back out with 2 retreat cost on the Vaporeon.
Yeah. I mean, Peter's going to have all the time in the world. I think if there's Gardenia, but if he doesn't have any energy left, then what's he going to do?
The only thing that would actually benefit from the Gardenia would be the Keldeo.
So Peter's going to switch into his Wobbuffet here. Well, I wonder if he's trying to open up a bench spot for something and say, hey, would you like to knock out Wobbuffet? Then you can attack with your...
the Ancients. You can attack with...
You can attack with that Tapu Koko over there. Wouldn't it be nice?
Pretty enticing.
Yeah, I wonder... Boy, this is interesting. I think Paulo is favored to win. As weird as that is. As long as the cards are in his deck, like he's going to draw them eventually. Yeah, we're going to have to see. Like if he's got an Electro Power left. I've seen all the other cards. Double Custom Catcher, Lysander Labs to get rid of the Sky Pillar. It's all there. He hasn't used his GX attack. Can knock out 2 Vaporeon GX at once. If Peter doesn't change this situation, I think eventually Paulo wins.
Is the Persian in hand the Persian with Make 'em Pay?
It is.
Okay.
It is.
Trying to remind myself as to what that does.
Yeah, I wonder if Paulo is trying to play around that, trying not to get more than 5 cards in his hand. Because, yeah, one of the ways Peter could still win is if he rips away something like a Custom Catcher.
Yeah, and he's got the Ditto Prism on the bench ready to evolve into that Persian.
Ooh, Paulo may have walked into Peter's trap. He's going to send out his Hoopa, and he might use the Evil Admonition here to knock out this Wobbuffet.
You have to imagine, if Peter is making this play, if you're in Paulo's perspective, if your opponent makes this play, had they just done nothing, you could also respond with nothing. They have to have something up their sleeve.
Probably.
But no, it's just a 4th Vaporeon. 3 wasn't enough. We need 4. So Persian wasn't the plan.
Guess not. I'm at a loss for words. All right.
It's unfortunate because it's our job to have the words.
Yeah, I'll get there
but
eventually.
This is just stolen them right away.
Yeah, all right, so we got, the 13th Luzamine played this game, still recovering supporter cards, but are any of them going to do anything? Yeah.
We've been Ursula'd.
And now Tapu Koko Prism Star can attack.
So what was the thought process?
Well, if you have 4 Vaporeon out.
Faster?
If you have 4 Vaporeon out, Tapu Koko hitting you for 120 doesn't do anything.
It's like hits you for 0, yeah.
Now, if Paulo has 2 Electro Powers, he has burned a couple. But if he's got 2.
He played 2 very early, but then couldn't attack.
Yeah, if he's got double Electro Power, he can knock out Keldeo. No, just going to pass the turn.
Bringing up Raichu and Raichu.
Yep.
Lusamine yet again for Peter.
All right, getting back the Luzamine and a Tate and Liza. I'm just waiting for that unknown hand to come out and just
35 cards, game.
We do see Pokemon Communication. Oh, we see Munchlax. All right. This could be a game-changing card for Peter. That, I think, is why he wanted his bench to be open. All right. You can use the old snack search. Flip a coin, heads, put a card from your discard on top of your deck. Either way, your turn ends. So even if you get tails, your turn's just over. All right, here we go. Snack search. It's heads. He gets back in energy. Oh, boy.
Snacks found. This is not a drill.
That is actually very important. All right, so Peter does play counter gain in his deck. So that snack search from Munchlax.
What a wonderful attack.
It is.
Well, ability.
What a wonderful Pokemon. Will allow him to attach a second energy to his Keldeo and play a counter gain and start attacking. So he can start attacking for 110 every turn.
And he knew that he was taking a prize deficit because now with an additional energy, he can get ahead. And this was a very calculated risk. If he'd flipped tails, then he would not have had the energy to attack, and he would have essentially just passed a turn.
Oh,
he's doing a lot of turn passing anyway.
Yeah, he didn't even attach. We saw Peter use full maximum Luzamine. Luzamine for 2 more Luzamine. He will never run out of them.
You sure he's not playing on no hand?
I did not see one. He might wish he was playing it, but...
Yeah.
And Paulo just passing back. Boy, this is up there with some of the most bizarre games I have seen.
But there are 2 snack-searching Munchlaxes.
All right, so Peter finally making this play. He is retreating into Vaporeon GX and using those abilities to heal off all the damage from one of his Vaporeon GX and then tantalize it back to the bench. Now, unfortunately for him, this does not get him out of the woods. With that Munchlax on the bench, this still keeps open that same custom catcher play where Paulo can tag bolt. Oh, and he might be doing it right now. We see Pikachu and Zekrom GX coming out. Does he have everything he needs?
That's Thunder Mountain Prism.
He's got that now. He only needs 5 energy to tag bolt.
We see...
Tag switch. That's 2 more energy.
He wouldn't be doing this unless he had the setup.
Oh, yeah. We still got to watch him play it all out. We have an energy switch. Oh, we have a Volkner for a lightning energy.
Get an energy switch.
And a custom catcher.
Oh, okay.
And remember, he has not used his GX attack yet this game. There's the 5th energy for Tag Bolt GX. The bonus has been unlocked thanks to the Thunder Mountain Prism Star. Electro Power.
Double custom catcher.
He's got it all. Tag Bolt GX for the last 3 prize cards, and Paulo wins a marathon game over 35 minutes. And he is now up 1-0.
We've really got to unpack what happened there in the last few turns. So Peter gave up a prize to Paulo, knowing that he needed bench space free to be able to play Munchlax to snack search for energy.
Yep.
Otherwise, he would never be able to attack again. From our perspective, it looked like Paulo, however unlikely it might be, could possibly have a setup for a 4-prize knockout. But because Peter felt like he was pressured enough to give up a prize to then continue to pressure himself, Paulo was just able to get the 2 custom catchers, 5 energy with the Thunder Mountain to be able to tag bolt for 3 prizes and take the game.
Yeah, I think Peter knew he was just stuck in a position where he could never pressure his opponent.
Yes.
His board was just clogged. He had no way to get the Munchlax down. And he knew if he just sat there and played Luzamine for the next 20 minutes, he wasn't actually going to win the game. And his opponent eventually was going to draw all the cards he needed to win. So he decided to take a risk. It did not pay off. But you got to wonder, maybe if he had gone for that Persian, which is in his prizes, at some point, you know, if Paulo had like 6 cards in his hand one turn, maybe he could have taken a turn off to go, okay, Persian, make him pay. And if you're holding on to a custom catcher, I can snag the last one. And it just completely locks Paulo out of the game at that point.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe we could have gone for the Persian first and then followed up with the Munchlax maybe a little bit later on. You still obviously have to look at, will there be bench space open? Paulo would have to take another knockout for that Munchlax to be played. But even still, a draw is better than a loss. So
at this point,
could that Persian have extended things? These players are 4-1.
Yeah, at this point, a draw is a loss.
All right.
You need to get to 6 wins, basically.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you got to be going for wins at this point. Maybe Peter felt the best shot at winning was hoping, you know, one of those cards was prized for his opponent. He needed Electro Power. He needed a bunch of energy switching cards. He needed both custom catchers to be there.
It's a lot of requirements. And there's a lot to look at very early on in that game to see how Peter managed his energy. Could it have been better?
Yeah.
Would he have set up with that Munchlax earlier? Did he need 4 Vaporeon on the board? There's a lot of questions to ask. But it seems like this is just a deck that is very heavily requiring bench space, and you only have 5 spots.
Yeah, and you got to give full credit to Paulo for navigating through that game. That was excellent. basically from the first turn, looking at his opponent's active Pokemon and being like, okay, this is not normal. I need to change my strategy. We're not going turn 2 full blitz. I need to be patient, figure out my spots when I can attack. And he figured it out. He played the long game, and he did indeed have a long-term plan, and he executed it. Just impressive to watch. That's the kind of play you would expect at the World Championships, figuring out a plan on the fly. I got to assume this is not a matchup he's played very often. His Keldeo deck is a pretty rogue deck, but hey, he figured it out.
Just being able to look at any situation and say, how am I going to get my 6 prizes?
Yeah.
But, I mean, on that final turn, he knew exactly what he had to do. He'd had that one coming for quite a while. So having that kind of forethought is really impressive.
And now we do see Paulo searching up that Zapdos right away in game number 2. Peter did not have a very explosive start. I mean, it's probably as explosive as his deck can get. He played a Stevens Resolve, but he didn't get any EV down on the first turn. And that could open up a situation where Paulo is able to do things like attack you with Zapdos twice, get an Electro Power in there at some point, and get a knockout before Peter's able to get those healing cards up and running. And that's exactly what he's going to go for. One Thunderous Assault for 80 damage. And Peter's probably feeling the heat a little bit. Might be wondering, should he have grabbed a Great Potion or something to heal off this Keldeo, because it is in a little bit of danger. And one thing you don't want to do when you're playing these defensive decks is give up unnecessary prizes. Your eventual goal is to lock your opponent out of the game. You know, at some point you're going to give up some prizes, that's fine, but when your opponent gets an easy GX knockout where they really don't have to exhaust any resources, that's when your deck really just doesn't function the way you want. But there we see the Switch Raft. Once again, it's a Switch and a Potion. 2 powerful cards combined.
Named. 2 great tastes.
Oh boy, are we going to see the Joy Maker from Eevee? Oh no, okay, we're not.
Nah, he's just going to go ahead and Stevens Resolve. It'll end the turn, but he gets to search out a couple cards from the deck. Maybe make the next turn smoother.
It's a very reasonable attack, though, for this kind of deck. Joy Maker GX, just get 3 cards from your discard back into your hand.
That would make me happy. That's not bad.
Yeah.
And obviously the Ascension DNA, making it very easy to heal up an Eevee and evolve it right away.
Yeah, if it takes some damage.
Healthy Vaporeons.
Yeah, if it takes some damage, you can use the ability evolve, heal all the damage. It's not bad.
Used to play with Energy Evolution Eevee.
Yes. It is. It's a lot easier to evolve your Eevee with Energy Evolution, but
yeah.
That has rotated out.
We work with what we've got.
Yep. Alrighty, so now we see Paulo going with the Volkner, card that's been debated a little bit in Pikachu and Zekrom decks. I think at this point, most of them are running Volkner, but before the standard format rotation, there was a question of, should you run Volkner? Is it too slow? Would I rather just have things like Cynthia?
I think before the format, that was a reasonable question to ask when you had more options. Now, you don't have as many options, so any level of consistency is appreciated.
Yeah, and being able to do something like this where he plays Volkner for Electromagnetic Radar, which turns into Dedenne GX, which turns into draw 6 cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically Cynthia, right?
You're chaining quite a few tools together, but you're getting a lot of resources out of it.
Yeah. And Paulo looking for something big here. Would love to get a knockout on this Eevee GX if he could. He's pretty far away from it right now. He would need
GX with 160 hit points.
Yeah. He would need probably some combination of Tapu Koko Prism Star or Thunder Mountain Prism Star and Electro Power, something like that. Otherwise, this is going to be a pretty boring turn where Zapdos only gets the bonus damage if it came from the bench to the active spot this turn, but only doing 10 damage to that Eevee GX. That's not very much, Cora.
It's more than nothing,
That's the
but
lowest.
It's a lot less than More.
That's the lowest amount of damage you can do, 10.
Well, when you put it like that, we might as well have done nothing.
And it just got washed away thanks to the Ascension DNA. Now Vaporeon is out, and the second one.
Now we can heal all damage from that Keldeo in the active.
That's right.
And now it's looking like Peter is in a lot safer a place than he was going into turn number 2 with a damaged Keldeo at risk of being knocked out.
Yeah, the problem for Peter here is, look at that clock. He's
Yep.
only got about 5.5 minutes plus a couple extra turns to take all 6 of his prize cards. This is the style of deck that can be somewhat risky in a tournament setting where you're playing these best of 3 matches. You only get 50 minutes plus 3 extra turns. These kinds of decks can almost function like you're playing a best of 1, where it's like, if you lose game 1, you're not going to win the match. You just don't have enough time to win 2 games. But if you win game 1, it probably took forever.
Yeah.
So you're probably going to win the match.
It's a real risk that you have to be willing to take when you're playing a control strategy like this. But clearly it's been panning out well for Peter so far. However, looking like this might turn into a loss for him, putting him at 4-2, requiring him to win out from this point on to actually make it into day 2.
Yeah, and we do see that Erica's Hospitality going to draw 5 cards for Paulo, 1 for each Pokemon Peter has in play. And he's debating, do I full blitz for 0 here?
Just to be able to attach some energy.
No, actually just going to retreat and be able to Thunderous Assault for more damage next turn.
Third Vaporeon in play. Steven's Resolve going to grab 3 cards and end the turn.
Turns out when you get to put any 3 cards you want into your hand every turn, you tend to have the cards you want.
It's funny how that works out.
Yeah.
We could probably see Lusamine chaining Steven's Resolves the further into this game we get. But again, we've only got 3 minutes and 40 seconds on the clock, so how far are we really going to get?
Peter's got to attack. He's got to start taking knockouts. But even if he were to somehow win this game, there would be a 3rd game to play. It's just not looking very likely.
No. Nope.
Paulo going to do whatever he can to not lose this game. And he has decided he's going to throw out his poor Dedenne GX. And probably just pass the turn. Peter has Koga's Trap. He could do that, plus the GX attack, and knock out Dedenne. Oh boy. And they, as you said, Cora, Lusamine for double Steven's Resolve. The slowest of chains.
It's a consistent one, but it's one that he just does not have time for right now.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look like Peter sees any other way, really, to take this deck. It's a very clearly defined strategy. It's one that he was happy to have against a Pikachu and Zekrom GX deck. Just didn't pan out for him in game number 1.
Yeah, and you got to wonder, did that Hoopa throw a wrench in his plans? He's probably played against Pikachu and Zekrom a lot, and he's like, all right, I got the Wobbuffet to deal with the Tapu Koko.
Zapdos didn't get much ground.
Zapdos has 110 HP, that's fine. Keldeo knocks it out. That's all I got to deal with. And for like 95% of Pikachu and Zekrom decks in the room, he's probably right.
Yeah.
That's it. You knock out their Zapdos, you pretty much win. But Paulo's got a Hoopa in his deck, and apparently one Hoopa breaks everything.
It is so interesting to me in Pokemon how these control and stall type decks really do just rely on your opponent not having anything strange or off the wall in their build.
Yeah.
And you can certainly account for the majority of the people who are going to be in the field. But, I mean, some people are going to have some different ideas. Clearly, this Hoopa for Paulo is an inclusion that Peter wasn't expecting. And it just seems like it's such a tentative strategy to bring these control decks, which is probably why they're often considered rogue, why we're not seeing them as a premier strategy.
Yeah. And they can also be pretty hard to play. You can see Peter's had a lot of different options over the course of the game, and it's very punishing when you make a mistake with this kind of deck because you're really just kind of running a very razor-thin margin between wins and losses. You know, the games you win are your opponent got down to one prize and then you stonewalled them. They couldn't do anything anymore.
Yeah.
The games you lost were, oops, I didn't heal enough damage from my Pokemon, or I left something active where I shouldn't have. I used Steven's Resolve, and the third card I got was wrong.
Not like these blatant mistakes that you would expect to come back to bite you, but little things that add up.
Yep.
A lot of decision making, certainly.
And yeah, when a little thing goes wrong, it can blow up in your face. If you give up one extra prize card than you were supposed to, well, that can be the end of it sometimes. Now Paulo's got, the triple electro power.
Oh dear.
Zapdos is about to come in for pretty big thunderous assault. That's more damage added than the attack itself does. And it does add up to exactly 170. Time is called, and Peter extends the hand. Paulo Mimoso is going to advance to 5-1, putting himself one game away from advancing to day 2 at the World Championships. And that was just a masterclass. Excellent play from Paulo.
I'm very impressed by him. The way that he navigated game number 1, coming into a matchup that he's probably relatively unfamiliar with because there's only been so much time to be, you know, in a situation where you would even come up against